Listen to Downtown Hot Radio on the air 24 hours a day and 7 days a week.
You're now tuned into the Real Rap Radio Show. I'm your host, Walil Archer on Downtown Radio. I'm my special guest. I have Patricia Punch Barrett. How are you today?
Good, thank you.
So excited to have you today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. We're
I'm
we're
looking
getting in right before the next storm.
I'm looking forward to learning more about your book. Let the listeners know about your book.
Okay. Well, it's a continuation of a series, and it's the Pantera Chronicles. In the first book, it started in Australia and they migrated to the greater Las Vegas area. And the characters are comprised of the Supertramps, and they're descendants of a traveling circus. And their grandfather had purchased a ranch for circus animals outside of Las Vegas. And since circus animal acts are no longer in favor, the ranch was converted to an events uh, center and an attached habitat and animal sanctuary. On the property is the old Mob Star Grand Marquis Hotel and Resort that was built by the mobsters back in the day. And then, of course, they went to jail, right? So while they were there and afterwards, there was a magician in residency and he modified the property. So there's a lot of trap doors, hidden tunnels, false walls, and the Supertramps like to go exploring through the Mobstar Grand Marquis Hotel and Resort. It's endless. It's also integrated with drainage system tunnels and mining tunnels. So there's no end to the fun and surprises that come with going into the Mobstar Grand Marquis. Plus, they sort of have supernatural powers and abilities, but I won't elaborate here. And while they were, they're a little older now and they're studying film production at UNLV. And they've always been in the movies as stunt doubles because they're acrobats, aerialists, and they can do all of those amazing tricks. So they decided to get into their own indie productions and their documentary filmmaking aspirations, which takes them into pawn shops and antique stores looking for props. And while they're there, they found a very intriguing map with very strange symbols. And they weren't sure what it was about, but they're always looking for mob treasure because there are hopefuls out there. It could be buried in the Mojave Desert. It could be under the Mobstar Grand Marquis. Who knows? And there's also a legend about a lost city of Harlequin Springs, which is the name of the book. So when they imploded the Tropicana, the Supertramps decided to go on a destination picnic to Devil's Hole to escape the poor air quality. And at the same time, they're going to check out this map that they got at the antique store because it bears a correlation to the route to Devil's Hole. And Devil's Hole is where they have the pupfish, which they're these cute little blue fish. And they live in a subterranean lake in the middle of the Mojave Desert. And of course, it's heavily guarded because people have lost their lives before trying to swim with the pupfish. And there's a lot more to that aspect of the story in the book. Okay, so they didn't find mob treasure on this particular trip, nor did they find the lost city of Harlequin Springs, but they've got some new ideas. And they decided to stop at the actual ghost town of Harlequin Springs on the way home to visit a friend that had helped fight wildfires, bushfires in Australia. And he's an actor and a volunteer firefighter. And he's going to be at Harlequin Springs to see his old friends and do a scene for a movie. So the story takes off from there. It's a lot of fun. Mysteries get solved, but not in the way that you anticipate. And oh, they're also in the hunt for this ghost theater that got swept away by a flash flood decades ago. And this actually happens in Las Vegas. I know it's hard to believe, but we have flash floods. And if there's a rainfall up in the mountains, it can come barreling down like a 40-foot wall of mud or water, and it's wiped out towns. In this one instance, a man was carried 5 miles away from where he was lost, waving goodbye to his wife,
Mm.
and they finally found him. But whole towns can be carried and buried in the sediments from these uh, flash floods. So the super tramps are in the hunt for that. And ultimately, they have a great time with their actor friend, Duke Kaloa Daly, and that evolves into something. And then they go back to the ranch with the idea that they're going to explore these drain tunnels and things underneath the Mobstar Grand Marquis, which leads to more adventures. So it's both entertaining and fun, but there are allusions to some very real problems that are going on. We're having flash, we're expecting another storm. We've heard all about the flash flooding in Texas, the terrible floods, and we're so sorry and empathize for the victims, their families, their friends, their livelihoods, all of it. We feel this because we're in the same boat. And so that, and the wildfires are raging right now. Lord only knows how bad that's going to get. So, the story is both an adventure, it's entertaining, but it calls attention to environmental and ecological issues. So I encourage the readers and the people that are listening to this program to check out my book. It's The Lost City of Harlequin Springs. Okay, and they can find it on Amazon. They can find it by Googling the Pantera Chronicles, and of course by just following the links, the QR code. And if they want to get a pre-order in, they can get the pre-order for 99 cents until August 1st by pre-ordering The Lost City of Harlequin Springs. And again, they can find that by Googling the Pantera Chronicles, by going on Amazon. Atticus Publishers would would have many links. So they can find it, but they have to get the pre-order in before the price goes up August 1st.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, how long did it take you to write the book?
Well, you know what? That's an interesting question because I had been mulling over some ideas right after the first of the year. And then along about January 20th or along that time frame, they started having these terrible wildfires in California. And I started putting that together. And before I knew it, I had a story and I was excited to finish it and get it polished and presented, in a readable rough draft format. And Atticus Publishers have been wonderful about getting it professionalized and with illustrations and the um, the promotion of the book. I mean, it's all come together in an incredible way, a very speedy way in the publishing world. And I'm so appreciative of what they've done to get this book out in a timely fashion. I mean, we were kind of, involved with the pathos and bathos of the wildfires. And then here come the flash floods. So it's even more timely. There's an element in the story of the Supertramps being at the Mobstar Grand Marquis, and they're in the subterranean areas, and they entered a few places that they probably shouldn't. And the flash floods came and they were panicked about losing their lives. So the story doesn't end on a down note. They didn't find them washed up in a ravine, although that does happen. So anyway, it's a very timely story, and I encourage people to read it for fun, but also they might learn a few things about uh, bushfires, wildfires, and flash floods that they hadn't thought about and become more concerned with environmental issues if they aren't already.
Yes, yes, yes. And how many chapters is it?
Well, I think it's 20 chapters, maybe 21. And some chapters are long, some chapters are short. But it's where it shifts in a logical place. So uh, it's amazing. At the beginning of the story, the Supertramps are looking at the big blue guitar after they imploded the Tropicana and for the ballpark. And they didn't exactly implode the Mirage, but that big guitar is going up very quickly. And it's going to be a striking addition to the skyline of Las Vegas. And so at the beginning of the story, the big blue guitar of the Hard Rock Hotel and Resort is compared to a rising blue quetzal. That's like the sacred bird of the American cultures. Beautiful bird. And then at the end of the story, a ghost town, I don't want to give away the story, but in its own way, it rises like a big blue quetzal. Instead of being lost to the annals of time, buried in the epics of sediment. And you know what else is interesting? Um, Within this story, they go to Devil's Hole. That's about 90 miles northwest of Las Vegas. It's in the Ash Meadows National Wildlife Preserve. And there's a town there, Amargosa. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Amargosa. It's just a small ghost town. And as they start down to Badwater Basin, they go by a whole bunch of ghost towns, starting in Beatty. And Beatty has its own hot springs. A lot of them do because people settled where there was water. And Nevada has more hot springs than any other state. Okay. So they uh they they drained the aquifer. Uh, a developer originally decades ago drained the aquifer of the pupfish next to the National Wildlife Refuge, putting in a housing development and pumping the water. So the BLM and the Environmental Protection Agency stepped in and they were prohibited from continuing this. Well, more recently, there have been mining interests going into this area because they're interested in mining for rare earth minerals, lithium, cobalt, things like this. Well, why would anybody care about that? Well, they become the components of the tech industry. And so everybody's anxious to go get these rare earth minerals. In fact, the president has tried to negotiate with Putin to get rare earth minerals from Kazakhstan. And, negotiating with Putin is maybe not, he's not a stand-up guy. But anyway, moving on here. Um, at the same time, tariffs, right? So uh, I'm not into the controversy, but I can tell you this: at Amargosa, there were other foreign interests trying to come in and stake mining claims around the town of Amargosa after they got the injunction next to uh, Devil's Hole. And bear in mind, the Timbisha Shoshone Indians there, that's their sacred water. It's their land. And to have the mining interests come in and just, oh yeah, they say, it's fine. We've had a hydrologist uh, assure us that it's not going to have an impact, whatever. So, but what a foreign mining interest did was then go around and stake claims around Amargosa. The townspeople, there's only 1,400 of them. And they all have to dig wells to get their water. So if the aquifer drops again, they're going to have to dig deeper wells. Well, if you're living in a ghost town, you don't have the money to keep digging for a deeper well. So I don't know what's happened since then. This is stuff I read at the beginning of the year, but it is controversial. And there's a lot of people that are involved in being heard. So it's just emblematic of what's going on all over the world and all over our country. And I think we need to be very cautionary about tapping into aquifers and being oblivious to what we're doing in the oceans because the oceans absorb the CO2 from climate change. And that then it alters the ocean chemistry to where, it's unhealthy for shellfish, it's unhealthy for mammals, it's altering the oceans. So part of the purpose of my books is to encourage people to take an interest in these things that seem, otherworldly. I've got too many other things that I need to be, and they certainly do. Everybody's busy earning a living, getting their kids to school, um, soccer practice and everything. But, maybe just pay a little more attention to what's going on with our planet and our environments, our ecosystems, whether they're the ocean, the land, or whatever.
Okay, well, I'd like to thank you today for sharing your book with us. Thank you for doing the interview, Patricia.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much. I really enjoy and appreciate being interviewed by you. Thank you again.
My pleasure.
Okay.
So that's my time today on the Real Rap Radio Show. And I'll see you guys next time on the Real Rap Radio Show with Walil Archer on Downtown Hot Radio. Peace and blessings,
Thank,
everyone.
thank you, Dr. Archer.
You're welcome.
Listen to Downtown Hot Radio on the air 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. Tune in by downloading the Downtown Hot Radio's mobile app. Listen on our website, www.downtownhotradio.com.